so we can have some opportunity then also to express some appreciation to Maharaj. It's really beyond what he's demonstrated personally in terms of his serving capacity, intensity, the extensive nature of his service. We all have some debt because of his merciful extension of service opportunities to ourselves. So that who brings us in connection with the service of the lotus feet of Sri Guru is really your best friend. As Srila Guru Maharaj pointed out about Srila Swami Maharaj, that he was always coming to him, and sometimes Nehru and Gandhi were in Calcutta, and Swami Maharaj Prabhupada would come to Guru Maharaj, come on, let's go, we have to go there and convince them. And Guru Maharaj is a little shocked, but Prabhupada was very intent. We've got to approach Gandhi and Nehru, and pushing him that way, always trying to engage him. Madhava Maharaj also telling Guru Maharaj, you're cheating the educated public, because Guru Maharaj was situated in Avadhut, and Madhava Maharaj said, you should be preaching to the intelligentsia in Calcutta. You're the best preacher we have. But Guru Maharaj, reflecting back on this, was saying, what a good friend Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada was. He said, up to and including, he said, now you've all come to me. So he's still engaging me in service. He took it then when we all came to the lotus feet of Srila Guru Maharaj, that it was still the mercy of Srila Swami Maharaj. Because he would say, Saraswati Thakur asked him to go to the Western countries after the first envoy was unsuccessful. Then Saraswati Thakur, and came back, Guru Maharaj's words, half converted, was unable to withstand the onslaught of Western propaganda. So Saraswati Thakur wanted to send Srila Guru Maharaj, and Guru Maharaj said, if you insist, I'll go, but I think you have some goal in mind by sending me, or who you will send, and 2 disqualifications I have. One is the inability to mix with many people, and 2, although Srila Guru Maharaj's English, as we hear in recordings, is fluent and his vocabulary extensive and his use precise and eloquent, but hearing native English speakers, Guru Maharaj couldn't always catch their intonation in his words. So Saraswati Thakur decided to send someone else. Some godbrothers came to Guru Maharaj once and said, don't you want this opportunity? Who goes? They'll have the name and fame as the person who took Krishna consciousness to the Western world. And Guru Maharaj said, I have no such interest. I'm aspiring to be the servant of the servant, a Vaishnava, a servant of Mahaprabhu. Another came and told him, godbrother told, do you know why Saraswati Thakur wanted to send you? And Srila Guru Maharaj said, no, I don't. And he said, Saraswati Thakur said, because he cannot be converted by the opposition. And Guru Maharaj said, that is true. Madhava Maharaj, Bhakti Daita Madhava Maharaj praising Srila Guru Maharaj to Saraswati Thakur, because he was on his preaching party. And it was before he took sannyas, even as a white-clad grihastha, or former grihastha. He told him, he said, you'll be pleased to know that he maintains the dignity of your conception, of Mahaprabhu's Krishna conception, as you are disseminating that, whether it is with the ancient Sanskritians, he upholds its dignity, or whether he is with modern people, highly educated in modern terms. In both contexts and all contexts, he maintains the dignity of this line and demonstrates its superiority. So, in so many different ways, Srila Guru Maharaj possessed superlative qualifications, but as he once told me, when I came to offer myself exclusively to his lotus feet with the intention of staying with him forever and recording his talks and at some point publishing them, he said, when this was clear to him what my intentions were, this is in August of 1981, he said, as your life's engagement, and it was conveyed to him, yes. And Guru Maharaj said, he gave himself as an example. He said, I wanted to collect the maximum from my Guru Maharaj, and I did. He added that. I wanted to collect the maximum from him, and I did. So he possesses unparalleled wealth, and not by his own, him certifying himself, but everyone who knows anything substantially in Gaudiya Mat knows the same. They know that. Srila Keshava Maharaj is saying no one can compete with him. It's Goswami Maharaj witnessing Saraswati Thakur saying, what I came to give, one man has received it in full. That is Sridhar Maharaj. I may leave the world, but one man remains behind who can perfectly represent me. All these sort of things. But Guru Maharaj said, but my tendency for distribution was not so great. And by that seems to be contrary to what we know, but he meant this being invited, pushed all the time to go, preaching. Whereas the Guru Maharaj we know, being with him, is constantly engaged in Hari Katha and internal culture and mining spiritual substance and sharing that type of distribution. But nonetheless, he said, my tendency for collection was great, but for distribution, not so great. He said, but in your case, so what I want from you is, you'll collect from me and then go and distribute that. And then return and collect some more and then distribute. Go in a cycle like this of collection and distribution. And joking about his own situation, he quoted this famous saying, that Muhammad could not go to the mountain, so the mountain came to Muhammad. So Guru Maharaj saying, I couldn't go to the West, but now the West is on my doorstep. And he considered that, again, the grace of his god brother, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So we'll see this sort of affectionate dealing in relationship between god brothers and god sisters, but in the spiritual sphere, where those who are eager to find traces of divinity anywhere and everywhere, we detect in them Guru Tattva, right? On account of their seeing Guru and everywhere and everything, in a substantial way, not in a feigned, posing or posturing, but substantially able to trace everything to the central conception of the infinite, they're qualified to extend that conception to others. So we see, for example, in the case of the Goswamis, we're told this is the Rupanuga line. Right? But Rupa Goswami reveres Sanatana Goswami as Guru. But Guru Maharaj is told, in some place Sanatana Goswami is indicated he's a Rupanuga. If we look in the Brihad Bhagavatamritam, and beginning and end, there's some indications there. He's saying, by the mercy of Rupa, this has come to me. Raghunath Das Goswami, who we take to be the Prayojan Tattva Acharya, indicating what is our ultimate necessity, he's Rupanuga. So we see simultaneously, who are revered as Guru, they're also revering others as Guru. Sometimes Srila Guru Maharaj would use this expression, the land of Gurus, that the spiritual world is the land of Guru, where everything is of superior quality and worshipable. That's part of what he's indicating. A world where everything is made out of higher stuff than our own existence, and therefore worshipable to us. Then he makes the point, then how can we venture to take one step in that world? How can you step? How the altar is for the deity, the Shingasan is worshipful and divine, but sometimes the pujari steps on it to put the crown on the deity. So out of service necessity, only can we take one footstep into that plane. Service necessity. Raghunath Das Goswami saying, Sakaya me mama namastu namastu nityam dashayate mama rasastu rasastu satyam. Intimate service is Pujala Ragapat Gaurava Bhange. That's higher, that's the upper world, that is what is worshipable to us. My attention is fixed on the least service. And praise of Lalita Saki, Rupa Goswami, Radha Mukunda Parasambhava Garma Bindo, Nirmanchano Pakarani Krita Deha Laksham, Utunga Sohrada Vishesha Vishat Pragalbam, Devim Gunai Sulalitam Lalitam Namami. He is observing this quality of Lalita Saki and praising her, that she possesses the greatest magnitude of eagerness for the least seva. We witnessed that in Srila Gurudev. The least seva in connection with Srila Guru Maharaj, he's always eager to take that. It's Srila Saraswati Thakur would say, actually all of this service is my responsibility. Right? But unable to meet that, my Gurudev has so mercifully extended himself in the form of so many apparent disciples or servitors, but they are assistants in that divine service. So we heard Srila Prabhupada many, many years ago say, this line that was riveted into our minds, a Maha Bhagavata Guru does not accept anyone as a disciple. Right? But rather, and Guru Maharaj echoed the same sentiment later, saying, he sees them as extensions, Vaibhav, of his Guru. So Saraswati Thakur addressing his followers as Prabhu, Prabhu, which means Lord, Master, and is a title that's generally reserved for Guru. he was addressing his disciples in that way, which gives some hint, an indication, how he sees them. And Guru Maharaj explains the principle. Just as a flower, it may be an ordinary flower, when it's offered to the lotus feet of Guru and Gauranga, that flower, having been offered to them, is now worshipable. We take it upon our head. What was before in an ordinary position, now is in an extraordinary position. It's become worshipable. We touch it to our head. Similarly, those who've been offered in service to the lotus feet of Guru and Gauranga, so-called disciples, he's seeing them as worshipable extensions, vaibhav, of his Guru. So, it is a mysterious and extraordinary principle. Right? We were telling Vyas, Asan, Vyas Puja, Vyasadev. Once Guru Maharaj told me Samas and Vyas, to compile and then to structure. In terms of spirit, it's one thing to compile many things, but then to structure it in some systematic way for distribution. So Vyasadev, everyone is in his debt. But Guru Maharaj will point out, in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, as given by Vyasadeva, this humility, what happens? Early on, in the 5th chapter of the 1st canto, Narada comes to chastise Vyasadeva. So, and sometimes we're saying Bhagavan Badarayana, Bhagavan Badarayani. The term Bhagavan being used toward Veda Vyas. So Guru Maharaj using this as a reference point to some devotee said, can you accommodate that? You know, that Vyasadeva, there's a plane where someone is coming and chastising Veda Vyas, namely Narada. Right? So, the mysteries of Guru Tattva. So we know in the case of Srila Avadhut Maharaj, when he came in connection with the lotus feet of Srila Gurudev, as a seva, Gurudev told him, he said, that he could take Guru Maharaj's conception to Russia. He said in a simple way. Now, subsequently, the Russian mission grew and developed and is so extensive. So, when being praised for that, Avadhut Maharaj, Vijay Raman, they would give all the credit to Gurudev. And saying it's by the mercy of Srila Govinda Maharaj that all these things happen. But if you ask Srila Govinda Maharaj, he would say, I just told you, go to Russia, try to do something there for Srila Guru Maharaj. He'll say in a very humble, unassuming way. But we say, Amar Agyai Guru Hoya Tare Desh, Jari Dako Tari Kaho Krishna Upadesh. Mahaprabhu gave this order, on my order become Guru, deliver the people of the land. So see, and the order of Guru, so much power. Right? Nimitta Matram Bhava Savyasachan in the Gita. Arjuna offering himself to be instrumental to divine will. Then what sort of current is passing through him? We see Srila Gurudev, when he witnessed all these extraordinary preaching events in Russia and the growth and development of the mission, he said about Srila Avadhut Maharaj, he said, some mysterious power is working on his behalf. At the same time, you can see in Avadhut Maharaj's room in Moscow, I know there, and another place, we'll see a picture of Gurudev with his lati, his famous 15 rupee cane from Jagannath Puri. Gurudev was very proud of that cane. It had gone on every world tour with him. And it cost 15 rupees. And he showed me where it used to be longer. He said it's lost this much by his going around the world. And many times people offered him gifts, beautifully carved wooden canes with silver handles and ornamented. And he would graciously accept them, but keep them in different, not use them. But that 15 rupee lati stick accompanied him all over the world, and you can see a picture with that. He is in Petersburg, and he draws some marks on the soil. This is before there was any temple there, and he points and shows how it will be. And where Gurudev made the marks, Avadhut Maharaj later brought, what do you call them? I guess the architect, but the guy with the sextants, the land surveyor, or I don't know, they have a name, you know what I'm talking about. And when they put I don't know the technical jargon for that stuff, but the marks were exact to where Gurudev had made them. He said, it'll be here, like this corner will be there, this will be everywhere he indicated. Those were the same places that the surveyors with their special surveying equipment made the same place. And then gradually that manifest, and then the deities came. So Srila Avadhut Maharaj and Srila Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, they'll give all the credit to one another, but we can credit both. We'll credit the divine will of Srila Gurudev, and we'll credit Srila Avadhut Maharaj for being a fit receptacle for the will of Srila Gurudev. Just as once Srila Gurudev was telling me that about some particular disciple of Srila Saraswati Thakur, like some day came on the calendar and some name appeared who in my ignorance, I didn't know who they were or the glories of that particular devotee. And Srila Gurudev said it this way. He said, the will of Srila Saraswati Thakur played upon him very beautifully. And what he meant was, he was I forget the term, maybe compositor, but in the old typesetting days, someone has to pick the type out of a box, each letter's in a box, and then you have to put that, I think it's called compositing, but I forget. But like a typesetter. But that's an art to how to do that. And he said him picking the letters and putting them in all of his movements, he said it looked very beautiful to see the will of Saraswati Thakur playing upon him. And as Srila Guru Maharaj says in his prayer, Bilasatu Hridi Nityam Bhakti Siddhanta Bani. That may the divine word or order, we can say, of Saraswati Thakur play within our hearts forever. So we're also astonished to see how the will of Srila Gurudev plays upon Srila Avadhut Maharaj. That somehow, with that mysterious power backing him, so many extraordinary things have happened in the Russian mission. Particularly the Mat in Lakhta in St. Petersburg. So extraordinary that when it was inaugurated by Srila Gurudev and the deities, Sri Sri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Govinda Sundarji were installed, and the Bengali newspaper, the English one, the leading English Bengali by Bengali, I mean in Bengal, obviously not in Bengali if it's in English. But it said, had a picture and it said, Chaitanya Temple on Lenin's doorstep. They were shocked. I don't know if you know it or not, but in Bengal, they still have a communist government. And the Communist Party is alive and well in Bengal. They didn't get the memo. And Amiya Sindhu Prabhu has been there, the head office. They invited him as guest speaker, honorable visiting dignitary. And where they have, you know, a charge of pictures of Lenin and Marx and with garlands, you know, some tilak, you know. You know. I'm not kidding. But so there, and they say Chaitanya Temple on Lenin's doorstep, they're shocked and also happy because it's also known although they may officially be atheistic, everyone knows they have deities in the closet in their house, they're all doing Durga Puja, everything. They're Bengalis. So seeing that, and you know, I first went to Russia in 1978 and saw it in a very different way, and to see in the year, I forget which year it was, 2003, 4 or 5, somewhere around there, to go from totally being incognito to not only seeing Srila Guru Maharaj's books. I gave a talk, having not been there in 22 years, and asked for questions, and when someone would say, in Sri Guru and His Grace it says. I was like, I almost fainted. So from that time to this time, to see the deities, full-size deities of Guru, Gauranga, Radha Govinda, and under the name of Guru, Gauranga, Radha Madhava Sundar, established there, I could understand how pleased, of course, Srila Gurudev, and by extension Srila Guru Maharaj, but we had to give some special note about Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He would be dancing, and I'm sure he was dancing, to know that in the place that was, in a sense, the former seat of atheism, distributing atheism all over the world. And that place where that revolution began, this revolution began, Mahaprabhu's Krishna conception. Right? What is that ship called? Aurora? Yeah, it's like Udila Aruna. So it's there. Maybe someday it will take people to the Mat in Lakta. We'll have to get some boat and name it Aurora. So to rise there, and how pleased Srila Saraswati Thakur, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, the whole Guru Varga would be at this extraordinary accomplishment. And Srila Avadhut Maharaj always giving the credit to others. When he invited Srila Gurudev to a festival in Moscow, and we're in this park, I forget the name of the park, but there was going to be upwards of 50,000 people. But once some officials realized how big it was going to be, they made efforts to shut it down. So there was only 10,000 people. And Gurudev and Avadhut Maharaj is apologizing incessantly for there only being 10,000 people. And I was sitting next to Gurudev, and there was the ambassador from India and his wife and other dignitaries, and the big stage show going on. Gurudev on a napkin was writing notes about what he would say. And at the time, because of the sensitivity, they told, like, try not to talk about Krishna, directly. And so Gurudev, finally, he went on the stage and he said, so, it is impossible to speak about Indian culture without speaking about Krishna. And everyone was charmed to hear that. There was no fallout on account of that. It was Gurudev speaking in a very charming, affectionate, loving way. So, always giving the credit to Srila Avadhut Maharaj and repeatedly telling that the Russian devotees, and by extension the other countries, the Ukraine and all the other places, Russian Federation and so many other places where the Russian language is being spoken. Gurudev would say to work under the direction of Srila Avadhut Maharaj. He said, and then that will be devotion. And that is our target, our goal, our aspiration, is to serve. He's saying, what pleases me most, if you'll all work under his direction. It may not always be apparent what he's doing. Right? When he showed me what was going to be Jagannath Express, it looked like a building that had been bombed in the wartime. And I was horrified to see it. But then I saw there was this one big equipment, cost like $10,000 or something. And I said, I didn't know him so well, I said, do you have anyone who knows how to use this? He said, oh yeah, my uncle knows how. I said, oh, okay. And they're showing, and I thought, oh, this is a mess. And Gurudev's going to be here in 1 month. I was like, oh. Then 1 month later, he invited Gurudev. Everything, somehow there was now a restaurant there. The media was there, photographers, journalists. I was like, then after a while, then he said, oh, I have opportunity to buy a new place for a temple, because we used to be at the place called Zavodskaya, this little apartment on the top of the apartment building. And, with people like falling off the building, there's no room. So he said, I have an opportunity to get a new place. Drove me there with a new place, and looked horrible. I'm like, oh no, like one of these ugliest buildings ever made in the history of Russia. And falling apart and just looked disgusting, like you want to turn away. And Maharaj is glowing. And he said, and not only that, but we're right next to the KGB. And I'm saying, like, good God, like you're kidding. You're kidding. So no, shh. I'm like, Then what did he do? He gutted that building, means remove the entire thing. And then it was one little building, then he built like 1 story, 2 story, little one at the top, more, a basement, 4-story building. And now it's an extraordinary place, which is the cultural center in Moscow, which is, 5-minute walk from, what is that place called? Kuznetsky Most, where Jagannath Express is, Maharaj Interiors, all these other places. So, and while that's going on, so many festivals, and I remember many times Maharaj would rent a hall for like 500 people, and 70 people would come, and 50 of them were our people. And then like 15 were from ISKCON. And then 5, were just people who were probably lost. And we did many programs like that. But I remember once we were doing a program in Zaporozhye, and we're driving to the program, and we got stuck in a traffic jam on the way there. And it's hardly moving, and I thought maybe they're having a rock concert. So I asked some, to try to find, maybe it's a rock and roll concert, because the big traffic jam. I found out all the people were going to Avadhut Maharaj's program. In this hall. And there was 2,000 seats, all of them with people, every seat. They had to ask somebody to get up to give me a seat. Everyone dressed very nicely. Huge success, all the media. Last time we were there, and what is the museum in Kiev, not in Zaporozhye, but in Kiev, this museum, you know where it is. Sahadev knows. It's Mysterious India. Yeah, Mysterious India, but it's also a literature museum. Yeah, famous place. And in there, the first day we went, there were just television cameras everywhere and reporters. So all of that went out on the news, and of course Maharaj has arranged so many publications, and every year brings so many devotees to India for the Navadvipdham Parikrama, and has always been prepared to sacrifice every drop of blood, ounce of energy in the service of the lotus feet of Srila Gurudev. So Gurudev recognized this extraordinary capacity in him, and it's my good fortune that he connected us. Gurudev told me in 2000 that he was Jagannath Ballabha Prabhu at the time. He said, you'll connect with him. And again, Gurudev maybe just says something simple, but there's some divine power behind that. Like the mantra. Few words, like Prabhupada, one of his sayings was, minimum words, maximum solution. So, it's all of our good fortune to come in connection with him, because he's always giving us unlimited preaching opportunities, serving opportunities. This temple is also here by his design. As the temple they just opened in Tomsk, a new temple there, and Giriraj Govardhan is there now in a substantial place. Kiev is becoming substantial. Maharaj was just in China. He's backing the China program. Khabarovsk was there. So many devotees there. Where else? What's that country that doesn't exist? Abkhazia. I mean, it exists, but it's not. They have to flip a coin to see who owns it. They should just give it to Avadhut Maharaj. He knows what to do with it. They don't know what to do. Yeah. So there we have the place, and Sochi, and so many other places. So Gurudev has said, you can chant anywhere, you can read anywhere, you can do so many things anywhere, anytime. But he said this way, he said, but you don't always get seva. And we can say, isn't that seva? That's not what he's talking about. To get some real service opportunity. He was making the point, not to pass that up. And when you come in connection with someone who's incessantly giving you serving opportunities, then you'll realize the value of that type of friendship. You can't find a better friend. Right, so, Srila Bhakti Bimal Avadhut Maharaj Avirbhav Mahamahotsav Titi Ki Jai. Srila Avadhut Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitai Go Premanande.